G'day mates, how you going? Chris Brown here, part-time hobo. Australia. When you think of Australia, what comes to mind? What images come to mind? Kangaroos, perhaps? Sydney Opera House? Beer? AC/DC? Maybe the vast Outback. But how often does fire come to mind? Well, if it doesn't, it should, because fire is a huge part of what is Australia. Australia, its flora and fauna and the outback somewhat depend on fire. Fire is something that's natural, it's ordinary. Species need fire to regenerate, but fire is a huge part of the outback experience in Australia. And the folks that have lived there for 60,000 years know how to use fire. They don't fear it, they respect it, they understand it, and they use it. However, the white Europeans, the white folks that live in cities and generally have avoided fire, largely fear it, uncontained fire, because fire in many settings burns down structures, it kills people, it burns through whole communities. That's our image of fire. But the Aboriginal folks have a little bit of a different feel. So this is the background for what happened in the outback to my buddy Nick and his partner Joanne, or Joe, and my wife Shelley and I. We were those folks who had no understanding of how fire works in the outback. Something that you should fear, stay away from if possible, or look at from a distance. Thus, our encounter with fire did not go as well as we had hoped. We had flown into Alice Springs to climb Ayers Rock, which is about 350 miles from Alice Springs. Ayers Rock is now known as Uluru. Uluru is its original Aboriginal name. It is an Aboriginal sacred place, has been for thousands and thousands of years. It's only within the last 200 years it was discovered by white Europeans and then renamed Ayers Rock. About 20 years ago, Ayers Rock was given back in a process of saying I'm sorry to what they'd done to the Aboriginal community, and it was renamed Uluru, and that's what it's known today. For many, many years, you could climb Uluru, and that's what we were off to do, is climb up to the top of this sacred Aboriginal place out in the middle of Australia. Well, you can no longer climb Uluru today. The Aboriginal have taken back their ownership of this, and they wouldn't say ownership, but their respect for this this sacred place, and no longer can you walk up it or climb up it. And to be honest, over the years, many people would climb up it and then tumble off the side, so it's probably a good idea. Anyway, we were on our way to climb Uluru, and we'd flown into Alice Springs and rented a van, and we were going to go the hard way to get there. We're going to go the roundabout way, take the washboard, washed out road that goes through the middle of nowhere, hundreds and hundreds of miles, and we'll camp along the way and be off the tourist track. Well, the first night we drive maybe 100 miles on the bumpiest washboard road you can imagine. And we see fires off in the distance, but nothing to worry about. They're far away. Set up a campsite out in the middle of the outback area that we pulled over to. And after we get set up, Nick and I say, let's go see up this little bump, I guess a 20-foot bump, and see if we can see all these fires out in the distance. So we walked, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred yards up the bump and look out. Like, wow, it's a little closer than I'd thought. It's coming kind of our way, but it's far away, and it's nothing to worry about. So we went back down to our campsite, but noticed that that smoke quickly was coming closer and closer. We better check this out again. So Joe and Shelly stay back at the campsite. Nick and I head back up the hill, and the smoke is starting to get a little closer. And just as we get to the top and peer out over, we realize that fire is roaring down on us. It is coming as fast as anything we could imagine. And if we don't get out of there now, we're in real trouble. So we sprint back to the camper yelling and screaming, "Pack it up, get out of here, we gotta go now." And the girls, they threw everything into the camper. We're running back as fast as we can, and sure enough, that fire is coming up right behind us. We get back to the campsite as they have everything thrown into the van. And I couldn't find my sunglasses. I'd left them on a rock, and darned if I'm going to leave those behind. So as the fire is getting closer and they're screaming at me, I'm scrambling around looking for my sunglasses, and I find them, jump in the van, and we get out of there with the fire just licking down right behind us, and we scream out of there as fast as we can. And before we know it, that whole area was burned right up. We drive down our washboard road, about another hour, and decide, well, we're tired, we want to cook. We were just about ready to camp. Doesn't seem to be too much fire around here, but we have to be cautious. And we pull over, and as soon as we pull over, we smell and see things, and there's more fire coming our direction. It is unpredictable. We don't know how this fire works, but it works fast. Now, if we were Aboriginal, we would have known how to use this and get around that, but we're not. We were new to this. So we drove on out of there and decided we better drive and drive and drive until we get to Uluru, which is going to be about an all-night 400-mile drive down a washboard bumpy road. Well, that's what we did, and all night long we rattled that van and all of us to almost beyond what we could tolerate, but we got there. The only incident along the way was a white donkey that came running out of the Outback and out of the bush and cut in front of us. We quickly named it Jesus' ass, and a couple of wild camels. Quick fact, there are more camels in Outback Australia than there are in all of Saudi Arabia. Anyway, we did make it to Uluru. We did not burn up. We crawled up Uluru. We did not fall off. Did we desecrate a holy site? I like to think that we honored it. However, I think Aboriginal people might have a little bit of different interpretation of that. But fire, respect it, honor it, use it. Aboriginal folks, they know how to use it for hunting and all those kind of things. Indigenous people throughout the world have used fire to their advantage. Today, fire is used to burn down the rainforest. We know forest fires are being accelerated through climate change, but fire is natural, and Indigenous folks have always used it to their advantage. Well, that's it for now. G'day, g'day. Till next time, I'm Chris Brown. Off to my travels.